Hey, welcome everybody. This is Brian Friedman. I've been running The View from the Top as a podcast series, which hopefully many of you have listened to. But for the first time, I thought we'd try The View from the Top live. This is a bit of an experiment for us, and I hope everybody enjoys it. And I'm really delighted to have as my first guest on The View from the Top live, the live edition, my good friend and indeed my co-worker, Nitzan Yudan, who is the CEO of Benevo. So Nitzan, welcome to The View from the Top live, and it's great to have you here live streaming to LinkedIn and to YouTube.
Thank you, and very, very excited to be here on the first live show.
So Nitzan, obviously we know each other well, but a lot of people out there may not know you. Tell us a bit about yourself, your background, how you got into mobility, just a little bit of information about you.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of Benevo. A little bit about myself. I live in London, married with 2 children, but as you can hear from my accent, probably not British. I grew up in Israel, and that's where I started my career in technology. I never thought I'm gonna go into the mobility industry, and that's where I'll spend my career. I was in a special forces unit in the military service.
Wait, just stop there. You can't just sort of drop that out there. Okay, you were in a special forces unit in the Israeli military. Come on. Just a bit of information about that, please. Everyone is going to be gagging to hear about it.
Yeah, well, but then it can't be a live show. So I'll definitely can say that's an experience. In Israel, the military service is a mandatory service, a compulsory service. And for me, it was really something that built a lot of who I am. I believe so, in terms of learning about teamwork, learning about how to bring yourself to records that I didn't think I can achieve, whether it's physically or mentally. And I think that's been a big part of who I am, but that's been more than 20 years ago.
Okay. So you had this presumably quite exciting time that you're not going to share with us to tell us all the details about what you were doing. But anyway, somewhere along the line, you finished with that, and then you came and you went to LBS, didn't you? London Business School.
Yeah, so I worked for a few technology companies in Israel, and for Israel's largest bank, looking at investments that the bank did in technology. And then I decided I want to do an MBA in one of the top business schools in the world, and I applied to London Business School. And when I did that application, obviously I had to relocate and move to London. And getting to London Business School was quite challenging, but moving to London was much harder. And I got a little bit confused because I kept feeling like I'm the first person who is relocating to London, which obviously I wasn't. And I'm the first one who need to find how to get a bank account without having proof of address. And I kept, that thing really bothered me, that this thing is so hard to do, and it shouldn't be so hard, and surely technology can change it. And actually that's why I started to go through that journey, to see how can technology help me figure out what someone has done before, how has someone figured it out. And we started the journey initially as a consumer business, which was more in the accommodation space. And that changed one time when we had a meeting with Google. And in that meeting, Google shared with us a little bit some of the challenges they had in mobility, especially with younger people, and how traditional solutions were not relevant for them, and they wanted a digital solution. And we just said, yeah, we'll do that. And started to work with them, signed them as our first client on what I like to call the ugliest page in the history of internet pages. So it was just
get away. The ugliest page, come on.
Well, yeah, I might share with you the screenshot in a minute, but because I don't think you've ever seen it. But we've done, and that's something that at that time we were experimenting all kinds of different initiatives, and one of the things that we said is, oh, maybe there is something we can do with corporate, but we had no idea if there is a product there, and we had no time to go and invest and build it. So actually, our chief commercial officer, Matthew Cheek, just created one landing page, and he doesn't even code. And we went with that to Google and signed them on a contract where what they will get is a simple page that we created that really adds very little value for those who even manage to go through that experience. But for me, it was a massive lesson, right? Because Google is not a stupid company. They knew it's the ugliest page in the history of internet pages.
Hey, let me just stop you there. So you launched, I'm going to get this, you launched a business. When are we talking about, by the way? When was this? When did you launch this?
9 years ago.
Okay, so you launched this business and you landed Google as your first client?
Yeah, it took 3 years until we realized 3 years that we were doing a consumer business, and then we get into a meeting with Google and we sign them, and we eventually stop becoming a consumer business and become a mobility.
Right. So you started as B2C and then you pivoted. I know that's the word everybody uses in when
that's the jargon.
When things go wrong, we pivot. So you pivoted into B2B and into global mobility. And it must have been shortly off that we met. I teach at a business school. I know we met you through the business school where I was doing some teaching, and the students were doing a project, and Beniva was involved in that project. And then you say you sort of moved it to become a bit B2B. By the way, if I can just say, this is our first time doing The View from the Top live. I know I'm getting a number of likes from people. Please do add your comments in. I'm very interested to hear, and we're going to try and make this as interactive as possible. If you want to ask a question live to Nitzan or to me, then just come in with your question. I mean, hopefully, we're watching on our mobile devices as well, so we'll see what's going on there. So come through with your questions. Also, by the way, if there's other people you'd like to see on The View from the Top, obviously not this edition. This edition is, with my good friend Nitzan. There's other people you want to see on The View from the Top. Again, send through your suggestions, and we'll see if we can get them on the show. Anyway, let's just get back to the plot. So you started Beniva, as we said, it was about 9 years ago, originally as a B2C company, and then you pivoted it about 3 years after that into a B2B, and all credit you managed to launch Google, to land Google as a client fairly early on. And then a bit more, how did the business develop, and where is the business now? I mean, just tell us, obviously I know a bit about it, but tell the people out there, what is the business like? I mean, how many employees are there? How many locations are you covering? The shape, how many moves? Just to give me a feel for what the business is like today.
Yeah, we'll do that. However, I see that we have a cool functionality here allowing me to share my screen, and you were skeptical about that page that Google purchased. So let's see how this works. And if you can actually...
This is a live experiment, guys. We've not done...
Exactly. We like to be innovative, right? We like to be innovative. But
we're having fun out here.
Yes. So can you see now my screen?
They can't, but I can add it to the stream, I think. Yep, there we go. That's live now.
All right. So what you see now in the screen, this was the first version of our product. And as I was saying, right, Google is not a stupid company. They knew it's probably, now everyone agrees, the ugliest page in the history of internet pages. And what I've learned from that is that they were innovative and they were passionate about supporting those population, those interns that they couldn't support before that. But also that's what clients care about is the value, not the features. How do we deliver value and how do we add value? And of course, the second lesson was also quite important, is that you can be as ugly as you want as long as you're the only one.
Okay, so cool. A big shout out here to Simon Mason from Grable, who's joined us online, and he's asked the question to you, Nitzan. Do you ever see Beniva going back to B2C? or are you very firmly B2B now?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, I think that, well, I can speak about myself, not about Benivo, but I'm not going back into B2C. So I'm not expecting Benivo to go back to B2C. I think it's a different model with a different value proposition, and I've learned a lot of lessons running a B2C business that I do not wish to repeat. I think that we are now in a really good place with getting a lot of love from clients, and that's what we're going to focus on doing. Doing the one thing that we do right is our strategy going forward. So no, it's a good question, but not going into B2C.
Okay, so just a little bit more, Nitzan, just understanding a bit about Benivo. Just tell us a little bit about what the plans are, where you see the company going. We know it's not going to go into B2C, but where is it going? And indeed, what is it? I mean, people ask me.
Yeah, so let's talk about what is Benivo.
Is it an RMC? Is it a DSP? Is it a tech company? What is Benivo? Come on, right. We're on the spot here, Nitzan. Tell us.
Okay. You put all the questions together. Let's just go with that. So let's start with what does even Benivo mean? Benivo comes from the word welcome in 8 languages: bienvenido, bienvenue, bienvenete, etc. And that's what we are. We are a welcome experience company. We are not a relocation company. We're not a mobility. We are really about welcoming and how we can help employers improve the employee experience of either employees who are relocating or new hires, and give them a better experience. That's what we're using technology solution. That's what Benivo is. So it's a technology company to help companies improve employee experience. And we like to look at that as our approach is to be what's called in the industry a consumer grade experience, something that is easy to use, that is just like the product we use in our day-to-day as consumers on our phone. I mean, when someone starts to use Amazon or Netflix, we never go into a 2 weeks training about using those tools. So why do we need to get a 2 weeks training when we start using a tool at work? We think that things needs to work in a much easier way. And what does it mean? How is that translating into what Benivo is? It's a technology solution that is built around the employees who are relocating and helping them in that process. What does it mean? I'll give you a couple of examples. So when we move into a new place, when I moved to London, one of those challenges is to find out what others are doing, right? So with Benivo, we built the first time that the industry introduced star ratings and reviews into the relocation experience. Everywhere in our life, we use star rating and reviews. When we buy on Amazon, when we book a holiday on Expedia or on hotels.
I will never go on a hotel that isn't in the top 5 or 6 rated in that particular city. Or if I'm buying something these days, I will look at the user review way more than I actually look at the company's own product information. And you look at those,
right? And you still,
that's how we buy stuff these days, isn't it?
Yeah, and Brian, you still remember the times when it all mattered if that's a 3-star hotel or a 4-star hotel. No one cares about it today, right? It's just what are the user ratings. So the whole world has changed in that aspect in the last 15, 20 years, even maybe less, except for in relocation. When we relocate, we still can't see what others have done. So we've created that layer that allows me to see as an employee of a company where other people live in the city, but people who work on the same level of me as the same company, but not only where they live, also how much money they spend on accommodation, how do they commute to work, which bank account did they open, and was the good experience, bad experience, which mobile plan did they choose, and what the star rating. So the same way we make decisions in our day-to-day life, we can make those decisions when we relocate about where to go out, what to do.
So in the old days, it used to be the case that people would meet around the water cooler, as they used to call it, in the office, and they'd learn from each other about, what were the right things to do, where was a good place to live or go out or open a bank account or what have you. But that's all after the event, and employees would find out, 6 months later that actually they'd made a terrible mistake. But what you're doing with Beniva, what we're doing, is that you're finding a way of actually getting that information to people in advance and then making the decision. And effectively, it's crowdsourcing information about the move from the generation that went before.
Yes, and it's also being more relevant for them, right? Because you talk about like what happened before. Sure, when I met my wife, I had to, be brave and talk to her in a party. That's not how people meet today, right? They do it on a phone by swiping. And why? If we want to give them a good employee experience, we need to replicate those experience and the ways they are used now to interact into how they interact with their work tool, how they make decisions about something like relocation.
Yeah, I got it. And in fact, a question we've just been asked, which I think ties in with that, is with the consumerization of the enterprise, did your B2C roots help you when building a B2B product?
Yeah, so actually it helped a lot because, and that's something I'm happy to say, we didn't understand mobility at all. If even now in Beniva, when there are 60 people in the company, you're gonna ask what is a balance sheet. If more than 3 people will know to answer that, I'll be surprised.
I've run training sessions, they obviously haven't been listening.
Yes, so luckily we have you, which means now we know everything about mobility. Well, at least we have someone we can ask. But we don't know. What we know is our roots in being a consumer. We think like a consumer. We think like the employee who is relocating. We are focused on that. And that's also how we can be so different than anything else that is built around technology, because we did not come from the industry. Okay. So you asked me about what Beniva. I gave you one example about the ability to see what other people are doing. Actually, the other thing that is quite popular about what we do is called Pay Later. And that's a feature that really changed our business, and most of our clients use it, and something that we are the only one who are offering in the market, again, because we are all focused about the employee. And this Pay Later is a cash advancement from Beniva to the employee that the employee then repay back to Beniva in 6 monthly installments after the first salary is paid. And the idea is that this is not billed to the company. This is between Beniva to the employee to solve the challenge of high upfront cost with rent and deposit.
So there's no cost to the company.
The costs are not being billed to the company, exactly, and it solves the challenge of the time that goes between when an employee joins a company and when they need to start spending money till when they get the funds in the destination country. So for someone in a new hire, it can take sometimes 8 weeks until they get their first payroll, but they had to spend the money a few weeks before, and that's create obviously stress, but also can cause with issues around social mobility and even discrimination based on financial background, right? Not everyone will be able to afford to pay that. And that's something we've built and solved. I can't say that it was a great idea from someone here, because it was really Google idea. Google came to us with this challenge and asked us to solve it. For obviously, they did not need our cash, but as a third party, as a technology player, we were able to solve that. And now, winning lots of awards for that, and being able to really make a big impact. Every week we get an email from at least one from an employee saying, I wouldn't be able to join my company without this support, which really makes all the hard work worth it.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about what Benivo is, but let me just push back on this. Is Benivo, it's not an RMC, is it? Is it a DSP?
Yeah, so we are not an RMC. We don't manage vendors. We don't have a list of vendors. We don't know how to give strategic advice. Yeah, we're not an RMC, and we're also not a DSP because we don't have people on the ground. We are a digital solution, right? So we don't have someone who will take an assignee around the city and will show them places and will go them to the bank and help them open. We don't know to do it, and we don't plan to go and do that. What we're really good to know, what we're really good at doing is building great technology experiences. So not a DSP, not an RSC. And actually, many times, we're not even serving people in mobility. We're serving populations that relocate but don't go through mobility. And I think you did the research, right, about
That's interesting. I mean, I certainly, saw something that said for many companies, the number of people who are moving not on program is probably 7 to 10 times the number who are moving on program. So, for example, a company that might be moving 100, think they've got 100 assignees, may well have 1,000 or more who are still relocating. It's just they are, I don't know, self-initiated, or they're local hires, or they're moving maybe their early careers and they're moving off program and they're not even touching the mobility function. So, I mean, tell people how Benivo is linking in with other areas of the HR function, maybe the talent function or the resourcing or talent acquisition functions, early career functions. How does that work? And indeed, what percentage would you say of the people that Benivo currently move are traditional assignees compared to areas where we're expanding the market for everybody?
Yeah, so we do a big thousands of numbers of moves every year, and the majority of them, or I would say at least 70% of them, traditionally were not under mobility. Now they are, or a lot of them are, because mobility got involved, and there is a lot of talk about mobility connecting better with talent and with recruitment. We don't see a lot of that talk. We see a lot of that action. We see companies where mobility can actually come to recruitment with new solutions and really start to support many more employees who were not supporting before, because a digital solution is obviously significantly less costly than the full services. So yeah, we see a lot of moves in organizations, and many times we engage with talent teams and recruitment teams, either in the beginning or all the way in the process, to work with them, and not always through mobility. So I think these are very interesting trends to see in the organization, in the industry.
Okay, and if I'm sort of looking at things from the company's perspective, we've got different providers. We've got the RMC who's out there, we've got immigration, we've got tax, we've got, maybe a technology platform. How does the Benivo platform link in? I mean, does it have interfaces with technology platforms, with immigration platforms, tax platforms, RMC platforms? Can you tell a little bit about, how it all knits together?
Yeah, so we built a lot of partnerships. We have partnerships live with most of the RMCs, with many of the tax providers and the immigration providers, and this is something we are investing more and more on, because we think that the employee experience there can be significantly improved by providing an easy-to-use interface, which helps with automation of repetitive information. Basically, a lot of what happens now is that people hear or provide the same information over and over. And we think technology can change that, because why, as someone who is relocating, I need to use 7 different platforms when I relocate, right? One for my RMC, one for my DSP. Many of them now require using a platform. My tax provider might have a platform. My immigration provider have a platform. Every time I go to each of these platforms, I need to provide information, fill in data, etc. It's not a good experience. Instead, with Benivo, we work alongside them, and able to provide an easy-to-consume experience that is interactive. It's all bite-sized content, because no one today wants to read any more long PDFs, and it's personalized. So I will only see information that is relevant for me. And I've seen
but is there video in that too, or is that just written?
Yeah, there are videos as well. We produce some of them. Some of them we can host videos that were produced by the providers or by the client. Anything can be done. And what's quite cool about it is that the implementation takes days. It's not that it's something that takes weeks or months, or I've heard even on implementations of software that took a year or two in the industry. We're talking about days to implement. We count our implementation days normally up to 30 days, and it's very, very agile. So it changes all the time. We believe that we are still learning, and our clients are learning and changing. Hence, we need to be able to iterate very fast.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that I was thinking about the other day, which maybe we haven't got out there enough, which is that actually, with our service, there's no cost to the global mobility function, because normally with a technology platform, there's a cost to implementation. Whereas with us, because we simply charge a per employee license fee, which will then get charged to the line for each particular move, there's no central cost whatsoever. So in terms of the global mobility functions view of implementing it, it is actually zero cost because everything is going out to the line. There's nothing left in the center as a charge, which may be something that we haven't thought about, but I think is actually a pretty cool feature.
Yeah, I think we always operate in full transparency, and our pricing model is very simple. Our standard cost is not something that we hide and you need to go through 5 meetings in order to find out. We charge $700 on employee registration. Everything is included in that, and that's also, and the reason is that is again us coming from being consumers. We wanted to keep everything simple, easy, not charging implementation fee, not charging all kind of other fees. We just want to be one cost, that it's simple, that it's easy to understand, easy to pass forward, and easy to purchase.
I think we'd better give a big shout out to David Carmichael. I see David Carmichael of CGI has joined us listening, and he's a client of ours, and he's just commented repetitive information. I like that term. And the big shout out is that we were at an event with David and he coined that term, repetitive information. So we take our hats off to you, and I think we owe you a beer for that one, David. We love the term, and thank you for coining it.
As I said, we learn fast, right? So last week David said that. This week we are already using it on our live board.
Absolutely, absolutely. So big shout out to David. Let me just move things on to a different subject, and it's a big issue today, and it's maybe moving slightly away from mobility, and that's the issue of sustainability. I mean, that is such a big issue everywhere we look, every corner of the globe. What initiatives has Benevo been spearheading in the whole sort of sustainability arena?
So one of the things we've launched this year to try and support that was actually upgrading our welcome gift experience. So as a technology company, we actually have also a physical component to our solution. So 5 or 6 years ago when we started, it was a simple envelope with a few vouchers in it. And then every year since, we launched a new version, and that version is an upgrade and another upgrade to it. And last year, we had a very good version, a physical box that we were sending with items inside to it that people love. But some people were telling us, actually, I don't need that. And that might be a waste. Or I wish I could donate it to a charity instead. And the overall feedback was good. It was 9 point something out of 10. But we always look at the feedback, and then we looked at it and we started to think, oh, that's an idea. Why don't we do that as well? Why don't we actually go and make everything, reduce the footprint that we create, but also allow the employees to support more other ventures. So basically what we've changed that welcome gift to be something of 3 components. The first stage is, as the employee, I'm getting a gift experience in the destination I'm moving to. So let's use CGI. I see another comment there from David. I'm not sure I'm following that. Fine.
Oh, because I've seen the comment. No, I said to David, we'll buy him a beer, and I just put auto.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting
that's escalation of commitment. So as a CGI employee now, if I will, I got a great opportunity. They get a gift experience from Benivo that they can choose. It can be a learning, a language learning app, a night out, a recyclable water bottle, something that they choose. But then we say you got a good opportunity. Now gift it forward. Choose a cause that is close to your heart that you would like to support, and that can be supporting healthcare globally, cleaning the ocean, fighting climate change, something that they feel connected to, inequality in education. They choose the cause, and then Benivo donate to that cause and their behalf. And the beauty here and how is that connect to everything we talked about before about a community and star rating is that the CGI employee can see what everyone in CGI has done together, what they've what the impact that they've made, planted 5,000 trees and donated 10,000 healthcare kits and cleaned 10 tons of waste from the ocean. And that's feeling that I'm part of something bigger. And we launched that, and we were expecting, and we were very curious about the feedback. It's something we launched a couple of weeks ago, and the feedback is really remarkable because, as you said, the point of sustainability and gifting it forward becomes so important, especially to the younger talent, that people are really touched by the concept and fully engaged in that. And it's something, a lot of people talk about the next generation with all kind of negativity. I'm really getting my inspiration from this.
Cool. Okay. One thing that I've heard people ask is Benivo just for large programs or large companies? I mean, what is the sort of size of company that would be appropriate or not appropriate for the sort of tech solution? Because appreciate the sort of areas around sort of crowdsourcing information doesn't work if there's only one employee there that's being moved. So where is it in terms of the volume side of the business?
Yeah, so that's true. We are not the right solution for every company. We are the right solutions for companies who have meaningful number of moves. We normally require a minimum of 100 registrations per year because that's what's required to have enough content, enough feedback, enough ability to do iterations and get that experience correct. Now, when we say 100 registration, that doesn't mean 100 assignees. Normally, companies with 30 people on assignment will have 100 moves, including self-initiated, new hire, permanent transferees, etc.
Cool. Okay. And where do you see it going forward? Where do you think technology is going to take us, either at Benivo or more broadly in the industry? I mean, can you see a time, for example, when people move with no human involvement at all from the global mobility function? Scary thought.
Yeah, a scary thought. So I think the role of mobility is going to change a lot, and it's going to be. It will require the people there to start thinking like a technology company, like a startup. How do I pivot? How do I stay agile? And what are actually my customer needs? And start from there and walk backward into what should I do and how should I spend my day? Because I think a lot of the time now is spent on things that will eventually technology will replace. But I still see value in people, right? So even the companies we were talking about, like Expedia, like Amazon, there are still people there. They just do different things than standing in the till and selling your ticket or selling your product. So I think the role in mobility will stay, but will change a lot. And the only way, and it will not happen in one day, it will be in many small steps. And the important there is to take an approach of championing the change rather than being, I'm not sure what that means, because no one can stop technology. We see it all over us, all over the industry, in different places. It's changing how we live. If we look at our life 20 years ago or 40 years ago, impossible to even imagine, right? The conversation we are having now live broadcast on LinkedIn with people engaging. This is something that didn't exist just a few years ago, and now becomes, how people communicate. So everything is moving fast, and in order to stay relevant, we need to keep change. Otherwise, we are taking the risk of, what could happen to what happened to Nokia, right? It used to be the mobile phone that everyone has, and now it's probably very tough to find someone that has a Nokia phone.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question about the future of global mobility that actually I think I've asked pretty much everybody who's been on The View from the Top, and I get different views. And the question can be positioned as this, which is, have we passed peak global mobility? In other words, are we going to have more and more global mobility, or actually a number's going to go down? And let me give you the arguments both ways and then see where you come out. The argument that says we're going to get more global mobility is the fact that the world is always becoming more and more global, businesses are becoming more and more global, people therefore, as businesses global, they need to travel with the work. We're going to see more and more of that. The argument against is, no, that was all right then, but now we're seeing borders coming up all over the place, whether it's in the US or in Europe or in the UK. We're seeing people looking at borders. Technology is making it easier to work globally, but without moving across the border. And indeed, just in the last few weeks, we've seen the coronavirus, and hopefully that's just temporary, actually discouraging people from moving globally as well. So do you think that if we look out, say, 10 years, we're going to see more people working globally than we have today? Or are we going to say, actually, today was a high spot?
Yeah, I'm 100% confident that we're going to see more people relocating, and more people relocating for work and more global opportunities. But it's going to be very, very different than how it was 20 or 40 years ago. I think the concept of assignment, someone with a start date and an end date and a healthy package is been shrinking and will continue to decline. Even in a faster pace. But the reason I'm so confident is that when you talk with younger employees and younger population, everyone wants to relocate or not even, they don't even call it relocate, to have international experience, to live somewhere else as part of the default, of part of how I experience life, as part of, it's so easy now to travel. It used to be much harder. Now it's easy. It's going to be as easy to move to another place. So I believe that a lot more moves are going to be required. The competition on talent is only going to grow. There is still value in people spending time on the same room together, getting work done together, and that will only grow.
Okay, I'm going to move the conversation back. We're getting towards the end of our time, but I want to move the conversation back to a little bit about you and how you got into this industry, your background. And the question I want to ask you, and I've asked it of many guests on The View from the Top before, is who is your inspiration in your business life? You must have seen people as you're working through either in your personal life, your business life, that really inspired you on your journey. So who are your inspiration?
Yeah, so I learned a lot from everyone who was my manager to work with me. But I think in terms of my inspiration, I'll choose two people actually, and they are my parents. From my mother, I definitely learned and inherited the optimism, always looking on the positive of everything, and trying to make something work and look at what could be done better. And for my father, what I've learned is really the persistence, never giving up, always trying. My father is in his 80s now, and he still works in his business full time, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, works harder than anyone I know, and not because he needs that. It's because it's his passion. He believes in it. He's always seen problems, but every problem ends up to be either a learning or a solution, and that for me is inspiring. And definitely, when people talking about, oh, I'm gonna do a tech company for 2 years, sell it and buy an island, that's not me. That's not what I grew up on, and that's not what my inspiration is.
So you're still going to be working when you're 80?
Definitely.
I'm closer to there than you are. I've tried retiring. I tell you, I get so bored. I'm rubbish. I'm the world's worst retiree.
Yeah, that's what you've been like twice already retiring, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not always cracked up to be. There's only a certain amount of golf you can play, especially when you're as bad as I am. Yeah. Cool. Okay. And really, just as we get to the end, we've talked about the people who have inspired you, but equally, I know you've inspired a lot of people. Both in Benivo and outside. People have seen, Benivo as a real game changer in the industry, and indeed that's the reason I got involved with Benivo in the first place. I saw something that nobody else had done or indeed dreamed of. But what lessons would you give to people starting out in the industry today about what they should do, about how they should sort of, shape their own careers? So, what advice would you give somebody starting out on this road today?
Yeah, so it's a good question. If it's someone who is looking into a career in the space, I would definitely say that there are, I think, massive opportunities coming in mobility, and those opportunities will be around championing change and changing the approach from being we have X solutions that we can deliver, and that's how we make sure compliance work, to actually thinking like, as I said, like a tech company, even if you're not a tech company, right? So being agile and coming to who are your internal customers and asking you, what are your needs? How could we deliver solutions for you? How can we help you attract talent, retain talent? What's your dreams? And then working out internally how to deliver on that. I think everyone who will come and be proactive, that's probably be proactive and own things. That's the best career advice that I can give.
Cool. Well, I'm afraid we're pretty much out of time. I said I'd make this about 45 minutes, and we're getting pretty much on there. So that all that really remains is for me to to thank you, Nitzan. I mean, you're a great friend. It's great working with you, but it's been even better having you on The View from the Top. I think loads of people are, listening to the advice we got. Hundreds of people listening in either to this on LinkedIn or on YouTube or on, when it goes out, the recorded version. And I think it's something that there's some pretty useful stuff out there. Obviously, if anybody wants information on Benivo, then you know where to find us. But it's been great hearing your thoughts. I know you've won a number of industry awards, including obviously from my own old company, the Forum for Expatriate Management, and the Emma Awards. So congratulations on all those awards you've won personally and also from a corporate perspective. And many, many thanks for being on The View from the Top live. It's our first exciting foray into a live broadcast rather than a podcast. We've enjoyed it, and I hope all our listeners have enjoyed it, and indeed viewers have watched it too.
Thank you so much. I'll just give one last comment on the awards. They're not my awards, it's the team awards. I might be sometimes in the front, but people are working extremely hard here and in our office in Yerevan, and all the credit goes to them. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, thank you, everybody. See you with the next edition of The View from the Top live.